Hi there. Before we get into today's interview, I want to talk real quickly to Christian business owners, decision makers, and church leaders. You know, Salem Media is known throughout the United States for its Christian teaching and conservative talk radio stations. Well, what many people do not know is that we are a full digital marketing company. We help both companies and ministries in the online space. We connect companies through digital marketing with new potential clients and customers. And we also connect churches with those people in their communities that should be in their pew on Sunday morning. So why not partner with a company that shares both your Christian beliefs and your conservative values? Why spend your marketing dollars with companies that do not share your values or many times are in opposition to them? So we want to help you with your goals. So reach me today. You can email me at patrickhoban@salemtc.com, or you can call me directly at 651-289-4412. We don't come in just as salespeople. We come in as consultants. We want to hear what you desire, what your objectives are, and then we strategize with a whole team of people to come up with a plan to help you achieve those goals. And if you're a church leader, we come up with a plan to help you connect with those people that God has ordained to be part of your church community. So reach me today, call me, email me. I would be happy to schedule a time that is convenient for you to see what we can do to help you with your marketing goals. Now, on to today's interview. God bless. Are you searching for a church to call home or a ministry to get involved with? Welcome to Ministry Connections. I'm Evangelist Patrick Hoban, your host and the local ministry director here at AM 980 The Mission. Each week we introduce you to a local ministry or church that you can get involved with and that is making an impact on the Twin Cities. Now you can listen to past and present programs on our YouTube or Facebook pages. Just look for AM 980 The Mission. Now today we have a friend of mine named Tom Goodrich. He is of Fishing for Life and he is local here in Minnesota. Welcome to the program, Tom.
Thanks for having me.
It is our pleasure. Now, Tom is a veteran and was twice deployed to Afghanistan. He works very closely with veterans here in Minnesota. He has a mentoring program for young men with Fishing for Life, and he is organizing an upcoming event that I'm interested in because I've never gone ice fishing before on Medicine Lake in Plymouth called Holes for Heroes. Tom, tell us a little bit about your background, who you are, where you're from, and how in the world did you get involved with all this?
Okay, I'm Tom Goodrich, grew up in Minnesota in what might be known as the center of the universe for fishing, Brainerd Lakes area, and grew up there. Did not have a present father and had a real rough young childhood. All that kind of leads into how Fishing for Life came about. But so at age 17, I was in front of a judge, and the judge said, you can go in the military or go to jail. So took the military out, and this is 1982 when, you know, it was still a very difficult boot camp where they slap you around and do all that stuff. But a kid like me probably needed it, and so I ended up in the military, did my 22 years there.
22 years in the military. What branch of the military, Tom?
Yeah, Army.
Army, okay.
Yeah. And I know you're going to ask me a question about Fishing for Life and how that came about, but one can't be answered without the other. When I was this young kid without a dad, my dad, I lost him to alcoholism, so he was somewhat present But I was wandering around, getting in trouble, no parental influence, needing some males in my life. And the Lord sent a laborer, not a polished pastor type that one might think. The Lord sends these people, and often you cannot overlook them. They may come in rough packages, but they're gifts from God. And this guy was a recovering alcoholic, and he poured into my life at age 16, 17, and I was watching him closely, still getting in trouble. He brought me to a evangelistic meeting, Lowell Lundstrom. I gave my life to Christ there, and as soon as I walked out of those doors, the wolves were right on top of me. And I never really changed, although deep down I had a desire to serve the Lord, but I had no male role models. I had no church that was showing me an example. So I'm still in trouble, end up in front of that judge, go in the military. A couple more laborers came in front of me, and I began to put a life together that was functional, without alcohol, without the trouble, but it was because of these role models.
These role models that came into your life, other men. I think in modern society, we don't understand how much fathers and men are so important in a young man's development.
You know, you're right. And do you know the guy a big pivot in my life was a guy who looked me square in the eyes, and he was not an outwardly acting Christian, but he said, I see something in you, and I'm not going to let you screw it up. So this is when I'm in the 82nd Airborne. And it was like, wow. You know what that statement, what that holds? I see something in you. There's the blessing, right? There's a guy who says you're valued. So he said that, and it was like, then pour into me, and he did. He made me into an NCO, a non-commissioned officer at the time, poured 2 years of his wisdom life into me, and started shaping me as a man. So I'm like thirsty and drinking that up. I ended up getting my commission as an officer, becoming a pretty good leader in the military. But as a result of this other guy packaged, not like you might think, not a perfect Christian, but a real man. And the Lord sent that guy.
A real man. You know, that's so important because, I come from Ireland and I grew up in a rough neighborhood.
Yeah.
There were a lot of tough guys.
Yeah.
And, but we still need tough guys that are Christians today. Men need to know how to be men and how to operate in this world, both at home and in the world, because it's a tough world out there.
The streets are tough. And, where does that Christian line and, hey, hold your own and fight if you got to fight and go to combat if you got to go to combat. The church doesn't know how to do this well. And so we send out a bunch of sheep to lead boys and men. And it's like, hey, we need some wolves out there. Now, what is that? It's complicated.
I hear you.
But it's what worked for me.
You did two tours in Afghanistan, and what was that like for you? You had a Christian experience, what was that like for you? Really?
Okay, so here's what's interesting about that. All leads into Fish for Life. When I went overseas, I was newly married, had a newborn in the home, and I was a pretty good Christian, but I made a decision because guess what? You go overseas in the military, it's a great place to hide. I mean, you can take a year off, go combat. Yes, I did a lot of that. Watch, whatever, bad movies, and you don't have to follow the Lord, and you can get away with it. Your wife's not looking. The church ain't looking. But I made a decision that I wanted to, and this was a personal decision, and I made a commitment to God that I was going to just do my best to be a great Christian over there. So you know what? The first thing I heard from God, and I don't hear a lot, I can only say 4, 5, 6 times where I got a word from God, was volunteer for everything. Okay, that's what I heard. So I get to the MOB station, Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and I start volunteering. And I'm a captain. I don't got to volunteer for crap. There's a lot of enlisted privates, specialists that can volunteer. I volunteered. Well, guess what? I just was obedient in that small thing, and people took notice. High-ranking leaders took notice. They gave me what I would say the keys to the kingdom in Afghanistan, meaning I was given a job, $50,000 cash in my pocket at all time, a special forces team of 26, and I was cutting loose over there. I mean, running and gunning and mission after mission after mission after mission.
Really?
And thriving. This is what I'm built for. An entrepreneurial spirit overseas, cash, and you need to trust when those theaters are so immature, like Afghanistan was in 2005, 6, 7. you got to trust your leaders. You got to give them cash and say, just get the job done. Some don't do it. I did it, and I ended up winning the Bronze Star over there. I was cutting a path far and wide for the United States military and government, and so that's what I did, and that's how it all set up. But I was obedient to that first word, volunteer for everything. Now, that's not a sexy word either. Everybody wants to hear from God and say, you're going to lead this great ministry. No, he's going to come and test you. In my opinion, I've been tested many times. Volunteer for everything. And if you're obedient in that, and same thing with Fishing for Life. When I heard to build Fishing for Life, it wasn't some sexy, $1 million ministry. It was do a lake event. Let's see how you do a lake event well.
That's interesting. So, Jesus said, if you're faithful in a little, he'll give you much. So you did your tours in Afghanistan, come back to Minnesota. God speaks to you somehow about starting this Fishing for Life. Yep. And tell us the flavor of that.
All right. I'm in my last couple months of Afghanistan, and I'm hitting 20 years in the military. I realize I got a blank slate in front of me. I've got an Army pension. I can do what I want. And in the middle of the night in Afghanistan, every 7 days, you got to be overnight man the little operations post, right? And somebody's got to stay awake, an officer and an enlisted. And I'm awake, and I heard the Lord speak to me about to start Fishing for Life. And okay, so I came back, got the blessing of my wife, and I started blazing that trail. But everything in my past was a part of this vision. I mean, mentorship, kids, needing to be outdoors, needing to have some skills. What's it like to walk like a Christian? Gathering other volunteers, because I'm a leader and I love leading men. So now I've got hundreds and hundreds of men under the Fishing for Life banner, and I'm doing it all. I've got the mentorship, I've got the outdoors, I've got the skills, I've got the leadership. The Lord...
It all comes together.
Yeah, he put it together in a skill set that worked for me, and that's part of why it's successful.
So we have not much time left, but tell me, I love men.
Yeah.
I think men have gotten a bad rap.
Yeah.
And when I see anybody helping men, especially young men, how to become men in this world, it always excites me.
Yeah.
You have a mentorship program. Before we talk a little bit about Holes for Heroes, tell me, what does that look like real quickly?
Okay, this is difficult because we've got hundreds of men and hundreds of kids. My specific calling is to create a target-rich environment for men to minister. So what does that mean? I got hundreds of men, and I've got to sort them out and say, you, Patrick, are capable of a one-day lake event. I don't know you yet. I don't trust you. I can't even tell if you're good for overnight events, blah, 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 blah. So we create this huge matrix of events, and I don't care where you're at on that spectrum, you may be only really ready to rebuild rods and reels in a large group setting with other men, and we're looking at you, and we're trying to evangelize you and get you up the scale where you might be able to handle a camp with 14 kids and 7 other guys, and I'm asking you to be the devotion leader. So but I do know you may have come to me and said, I got a very sophisticated Ranger boat, and I'm feeling called to help out. I have to then look at you and put you in the right spot. Somewhere on that spectrum where it could be, let's call it the far right, the deepest ministry I got is the mentorship, where you're going to say, I'm going to say, Patrick, I need you 15 times a year to do unique events with this particular kid. Well, you've been background checked, etc. But if you're not there, then I need you to start where you're at. Rebuild rods and reels, blah, blah, blah. So somewhere in the spectrum, and that made Fishing for Life a big, wide organization, but it has a lot of depth to it for the right person. And I want to get men sort of discipled and moving down that funnel into the, hey, I'm really equipped now to do deep ministry.
And they can find out a lot more about this ministry at fishingforlife.org. Isn't that correct?
.org, exactly.
Now, we have a great event coming up, Holes for Heroes, on Medicine Lake, February 8th. In about 2 minutes or minute and a half, tell us why this is important.
Okay. So I told you we're a wide organization with lots of programming, and we want to get it deep. Well, Holes for Heroes is one of our wide, large scope events, open to the public, but it's designed to serve military personnel, but the general public gets to come out, help guide, or just participate and win great prizes. But you will experience a great military event where you can say, boy, I want to thank the military. We do the drill and ceremony at the beginning. We honor veterans in between and great prizes, but it is a real solid event where military get to be honored and the general public gets to participate in that. I've got guides that say, I was never able to serve in the military, but I want to give back. So we have them guide our soldiers and their families.
And it's important to honor these veterans that served our country, served us. You know what? We might be living in the comfort of our home, and there's guys out there fighting for us. And I want to thank you from my heart. I was not brought up in America, so I didn't have that opportunity for serving in the military. What word of encouragement could you tell people out there real quickly, to veterans that may be feeling a little bit alone right now? Yeah. What would you say to them? Well,
we're all alone, first of all. Guess what? Secret's out. Poor kids sitting at home after COVID and on their internet. They're alone too. Veterans are alone. They need, much like the Vietnam era before them, they need to be able to be in a safe environment, which Fishing Fly provides at our veterans events, and then they begin to tell their story. And so the encouragement is, if you out there tell your story, and it doesn't have to be a veteran story, but hey, I've been wounded, I was brought up this way, and you start telling your story, people are that's the beginning of healing. And same thing for our veterans. We want to create great events where they can tell their story and get out there what's inside here that's holding them down hostage.
Amen. You've been listening to Ministry Connections here on AM 980. with Tom Goodrich. Check him out, fishingforlife.org. Sign up for the event. We'd love to see you there. Until next time, God bless you.